Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everybody. We are discussing the effects of lesions of the midbrain. In the last lecture, we talked about the Weber's syndrome. Now, the next syndrome resulting from midbrain lesion is the Benedikt's syndrome. Now we'll discuss this condition again under same headings. Number one, what are the features? Clinical features of this syndrome. The patient presents with ipsilateral third nerve palsy. Then contralateral hemiplegia. Next, contralateral cerebellar ataxia. Ataxia means loss of coordinated movements of the body, loss of coordinated movements. Stands for ataxia. Next, lesion location. Where the lesion is located. Again, we will draw the midbrain section of the internal structure of the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. In front, crus cerebri, divided into medial part, intermediate part, and lateral part. Behind it is the substantia nigra on each side. Then cerebral aqueduct surrounded by central gray matter. This section is at the level of superior caliculi. These are the nuclei of superior caliculi. So at this level in the midbrain lies the red nuclei. Right and left, red nuclei. Between the red nuclei in the midline is the ventral tegmental decussation. At this level, in the central gray matter, are the nuclei of oculomotor nerve on each side. The oculomotor nerve fibers passes through the medial part of the red nucleus, Substantia nigra, and medial part of the crus cerebri, and have surface attachment to the medial surface of crus cerebri, right and left oculomotor nerves. So this is a crus cerebri. This is Substantia nigra. Red nucleus. Oculomotor nerve nucleus. Here in the center, this is ventral tegmental decussation. Ventral tegmental decussation. The lateral part, the medial part of the crus cerebri, this is intermediate part of the crus cerebri. This is lateral part of crus cerebri, and we already talked about the descending tracts in this region. In the medial part are frontopontine tracts, and in the intermediate part cortico-bulbar tract, cortico-spinal tract, and in the lateral part the tracts are parieto-pontine, occipito-pontine, temporo-pontine. Now lesion location. Lesion involve the crus cerebri, which part? The middle part and adjacent portion of the intermediate part. Then oculomotor nerve fibers passing through the medial part of the crus cerebri. Next, the medial part of the Substantia nigra, red nucleus, oculomotor nucleus, and ventral tegmental decussation. Now this area marked by red dots are the different parts which are involved in this lesion of the midbrain. So this hole is the area of lesion location, area which is damaged. So lesion location, it involves different parts. That is the medial part of the crus cerebri, the adjoining portion of the intermediate part of the crus cerebri, the medial most part of the substantia nigra, the nerve fibers of the oculomotor nerve, the medial part of the red nucleus, along with the ventral tegmental decussation and nucleus of the oculomotor nerve. So medial part of the crus cerebri, intermediate part of the crus cerebri, then substantia nigra, red nucleus, oculomotor nucleus, oculomotor nerve nucleus, and tegmental decussations. These are different parts of the midbrain which are involved in this damage. Next is the cause of lesion. The reason for lesion is infarction of this area or trauma. Infarction may be due to vascular lesion also. So this was the cause of lesion to this part of the midbrain. Now what are the structures involved? The structures involved in this lesion. Structure involved in this syndrome, Benedikt syndrome. So first of all, is the ipsilateral third nerve palsy. Because the lesion not only involve the nerve fibers of the oculomotor nerve traversing through the red nucleus, through substantia nigra and middle part of the crus cerebri. Second, the oculomotor nerve nuclei. It will result in ipsilateral third nerve palsy. Now, what are the features of the ipsilateral third nerve palsy? Number one, lateral squint or strabismus. Number two, because of squint, you know the eyeball is moved outwards and downwards because of the abduction nerve, because of the lateral rectus supplied by abduction nerve and superior oblique muscle supplied by tractional nerve. Now, because these two nerves are not involved in the trauma, therefore these muscles are intact and they draw the eyeball outwards and downwards. We discussed this in detail in the last lecture regarding Weber syndrome. So lateral squint, and when there is squint, it will result in double vision, diplopia. Double vision, true and false images are formed on the retina of an object, diplopia. Then fixed dilated pupil. On the affected side, the pupil of the eyeball is dilated because of sympathetic nerve supply which is intact. And the parasympathetic, the pupillary constrictor muscle is paralyzed. So it will result in dilatation of the pupil and it is fixed. There is little or no response to light. Then there is partial ptosis of upper eyelid. Partial ptosis because the skeletal muscle fibers of levator papilla superioris are paralyzed, which are innervated by the motor fibers of oculomotor nerve. But sympathetic innervation is there, so it will result in partial ptosis of the upper eyelid. Then next is the loss of power of accommodation. Loss of power of accommodation and pupillary reflex. Pupillary constriction, loss of power, pupillary loss of power of accommodation and pupillary constriction to light, and there is slight exophthalmos, slight forward bulging of the eyeball because most of the extraocular muscles, they are paralyzed and they are toneless, so they cannot hold the eyeball backward to keep it in position, but because the muscles are relaxed, therefore eyeball will slightly bulge forward. So same feature which we discussed in the last lecture in detail. Next is the features because of damage to the medial and adjacent part of the crus cerebri. This is B. What are the effects of damage to the medial and adjacent part of the intermediate portion of crus cerebri. Now, I told you the structure involved are descending tracts. And what are the tracts? For example, the frontopontine tract. Frontopontine tract descending to the medial part of the crus cerebri. and then corticobulbar tract and corticospinal tracts descending to the adjoining part of the intermediate portion of the crus cerebri. So this will result in contralateral hemiplegia, contralateral hemiplegia. On the opposite sides, there is paralysis of the face muscles, head, neck, upper part of the trunk, upper extremity. So contralateral hemiplegia result from damage to the medial and adjacent part of the intermediate portion of the crus cerebri. Next is the damage to the red nucleus. Damage to the red nucleus. What are the effects of damage to the red nucleus? And ventral tegmental decussation. As indicated and shown in this diagram, the red nucleus and ventral tegmental decussation is also involved in this lesion. So what are its effects? It results in contralateral cerebellar ataxia. And what is meant by ataxia? As I told you, ataxia is a loss of coordinated movements of the body. Contralateral cerebellar ataxia. Now this needs some more detail. So with the help of a diagram, I will try to explain. So result of damage to the red nucleus and ventral tegmental decussation. It results in contralateral cerebellar ataxia. The incoordinated movements of the body is known as ataxia. Now first of all, what are the functions of red nucleus? Red nucleus is a part of extrapyramidal system. Part of extrapyramidal system of the body. Therefore, it control is required muscle tone, coordination, and required posture of the body. So because it is a part of the red nucleus is a part of the extrapyramidal system, so it maintains the required muscle tone, the required posture and coordination. Muscle tone, coordination and posture. Then apart from involving the red nucleus is ventral tegmental decussation. This part, ventral tegmental decussation. There is a decussation of nerve fibers in the midbrain at the level of superior calculus between two red nuclei. Now, there are two parts of this: dorsal, ventral, tegmental decussation, and dorsal to it is the dorsal tegmental decussation. In this diagram, only ventral tegmental decussation is shown. Dorsal to it is a dorsal tegmental decussation. These topics already we discussed in the previous lecture, but again I will repeat. When in ventral tegmental decussation, there is decussation of rubrospinal tracts. In ventral tegmental decussation, there is decussation of tracts, rubrospinal tracts, the tracts originating from the red nucleus and then terminating into the spinal cord. And the dorsal tegmental decussation, in which there is decussation of tectobulbar tracts. And tectospinal tracts. These tracts already we discussed in the visual reflex pathway and auditory reflex pathway. But regarding the Benedikt's syndrome, we are here concerned with the ventral tegmental decussation, located between the two red nuclei, and the efferent fibers arising from the red nuclei, they cross and then descend to enter the spinal cord. So these rubrospinal tracts, they decussate. So when there is a lesion when the lesion involves the red nucleus and the ventral tegmental decussation, there is damage to the red nucleus and also the ventral tegmental decussation, the decussation of the rubrospinal tracts. So thus, if there is a lesion of the ventral tegmental decussation and the red nucleus, because red nucleus is part of extrapyramidal system and maintain body posture, muscle tone and coordination. So lesion of the red nucleus and ventral tegmental decussation will disturb the muscle coordination, muscle tone, coordination of the body movements and body posture. Now, with the help of diagram, I will try to explain. Suppose this is right cerebral hemisphere and this is left cerebral hemisphere. Right cerebral cortex and left cerebral cortex. I hope along with the lecture you will enjoy the bird singing and will refresh your mind. Midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, which is continued as spinal cord. Now behind it, on the right side, you can see the right cerebellar hemisphere. And on the left side, left cerebellar hemisphere. This is right cerebellar hemisphere. And left cerebellar hemisphere. Now each cerebellum is connected to the midbrain by superior cerebellar peduncle. superior cerebellar peduncle to the pons by middle cerebellar peduncle and to the medulla oblongata by inferior cerebellar peduncle. Then in the midbrain is red nucleus. This is a left red nucleus. And on the right side is a right red nucleus. Then in the left cerebellum hemisphere, this is left thalamus. On the right side, in each cerebellum hemisphere, left and right. On the right side is the right thalamus. Then this is the left cerebral hemisphere, and this one is the right. So from the nucleus of cerebellar hemisphere, we will discuss from right cerebellar hemisphere. There are different nuclei. One is the dentate nucleus, the largest nucleus, nucleus dentatus. Then there are other nuclei also, nucleus emboliformis, nucleus fastigius, nucleus globosus, different nuclei. So, from the dentate nucleus of the left cerebellum hemisphere, the nerve fibers, they leave the cerebellum through superior cerebellar peduncle. On the right cerebellum hemisphere, bundle of nerve fibers arise which enter the midbrain through superior cerebellar peduncle. We are tracing the pathway from right side. This is superior cerebellar peduncle. Now these fibers ascend and descend, and the ascending fibers, they decussate in the lower part of the midbrain as decussation of the superior cerebellar peduncle. These are the fibers from the opposite peduncle, opposite superior cerebellar peduncle. So to differentiate between the fibers of superior cerebral right and left, these fibers from the right superior cerebral peduncle is shown as continuous red line, and from the left cerebral hemisphere it is shown as interrupted red line. So the fibers from the right cerebral hemisphere pass through the right superior cerebellar peduncle. Enter the lower part of the midbrain, where these fibers decussate with the fibers from the opposite, from the superior cerebellar peduncle of the opposite cerebral hemisphere and form a decussation. This is known as the decussation of superior cerebellar peduncles. Decussation of superior cerebral peduncle. The fibers originating from the dentate nucleus of the right cerebral hemisphere, they passes through the right superior cerebellar peduncle. The fibers originating from the dentate nucleus of the right cerebellar hemisphere, they are crowded together to leave the right cerebellar hemisphere via right superior cerebral peduncle, enter the lower part of the midbrain, where they decussate from similar fibers coming from the left cerebral hemisphere, from the left cerebellar hemisphere. They cross here in the lower part of the midbrain, and this crossing of the right and left superior cerebral peduncle form the decussation of the superior cerebral peduncle. Now in this way, the left cerebellar hemisphere is connected with the left red nucleus via right superior cerebellar peduncle. Now from the left red nucleus, these fibers, the superior cerebral peduncle, are known as cerebellar fibers. Cerebellar fibers from cerebellum to the red nucleus rubra. Then from the left red nucleus, the fibers continue to relay in the left thalamus of the left cerebral hemisphere. These fibers are known as the rubro-thalamic fibers. And relay in the left thalamus. From the left thalamus, the fibers continue to the cortex of the left cerebral hemisphere. These fibers are known as the thalamo-cortical fibers. So again I will repeat, we are tracing the fibers from the nuclei of the right cerebral hemisphere. So the fibers known as the cerebellar fibers, which connect the right cerebellar hemisphere with the left red nucleus. Via right superior cerebellar peduncle. So the right superior cerebellar peduncle connect the right cerebellar hemisphere with the left red nucleus. Then the fibers from the left nucleus continue upwards and relay in the left thalamus. And from the left thalamus, then the fibers, they terminate in the left cerebral cortex of the left cerebral hemisphere. These fibers which connect the right cerebral hemisphere with the red nucleus are known as the cerebellar fibers, and these fibers which connect the left red nucleus with the left thalamus are rubro-thalamic fibers, and from the left thalamus the fibers then connect with the cortex of the left cerebral hemisphere, forming the thalamo-cortical fibers. So we have traced from right cerebral hemisphere to the left cerebral hemisphere. Therefore, if there is any trauma to these fibers in the right superior cerebral peduncle, it will lose the connection between right cerebral hemisphere with the left red nucleus, not right, because here there is crossing of the fibers of the cerebellar fibers here under the name of decussation of superior cerebral peduncle in the lower part of the midbrain. We can trace these fibers also from the left cerebral hemisphere, passes through the left superior cerebral peduncle, relay in the right red nucleus, then continue to relay in the right thalamus and then right cortex. So we can draw these fibers, these broken red fibers. So continuous red line indicate connection of the right cerebral hemisphere via right superior cerebral peduncle with the left red nucleus, left thalamus and left cerebral hemisphere. And the interrupted red line fibers coming from the opposite side, that is left cerebral hemisphere, left superior cerebellar peduncle, passing through the decussation of superior cerebral peduncle, then right red nucleus, right thalamus and right cerebral hemisphere cortex. So the fibers of the right and left superior cerebral peduncle, they decussate in the lower part of the midbrain, forming the decussation of superior cerebral peduncle. So if there is a lesion here in this pathway, that is in the right cerebral hemisphere, right superior cerebral peduncle, and these damage here to the decussation, it will disconnect the right cerebral hemisphere with the left red nucleus, and lesion here and here also affect the opposite side because of this crossing decussation of the superior cerebral peduncle. And vice versa, if there is a lesion in the left superior cerebral peduncle, will disconnect the left cerebral hemisphere with the right red nucleus. Now, efferent fibers arise from the red nucleus, and these efferent fibers from the right and left red nucleus, they also cross in the upper part of the midbrain between the two red nuclei. Now what is this crossing? This is ventral tegmental decussation. Ventral tegmental decussation. So here, from the right and left red nuclei, efferent fibers arise. So efferent fibers from each red nucleus are rubrospinal or rubrospinal tract. From each red nucleus, efferent fibers, outgoing fibers arise, which before descending, they cross in the upper part of the midbrain between two red nuclei as another decussation known as the ventral tegmental decussation. Now, ventral tegmental decussation. Ventral tegmental decussation. What is this? Decussation of rubrospinal tracts. It is decussation of right and left rubrospinal tracts. So the rubrospinal tract from the left red nucleus cross in the midline through the ventral tegmental decussation, then descend through the opposite half of the brainstem. This is lower part of the midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, to enter the spinal cord. The right rubrospinal tract arising from the left rubrospinal tract arising from the left red nucleus cross at the ventral tegmental decussation in the upper part of the midbrain between the two red nuclei. It then descend through the right half and opposite half of the brainstem, lower part of the midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and enter the opposite half of the spinal cord. Opposite half of the spinal cord, where they relay in the anterior horn cells. In the spinal cord, they relay in anterior horn cells or anterior column cells of the spinal cord, gray matter. This is a pons. And then midbrain. So the fibers from the right red nucleus, efferent fibers, rubrospinal fibers, they also cross at the ventral tegmental decussation and descend through the opposite half of the brainstem and continue to enter the opposite half of the spinal cord and relay into the anterior horn cells, which are motor in function, anterior horn cells of the spinal cord. Now, the fibers from the right side are shown in a green interrupted line. While the fibers from the efferent fibers, known as the rubrospinal fibers from the left red nucleus, is shown as continuous green line. So here below is the decussation of the superior cerebellar, and above level, at the level of superior caliculi and red nuclei on each side, is the decussation of the ventral tegmental decussation, where the left and right spinocerebellar tracts, they decussate. This is why when there is a damage in this area, it results in contralateral hemiplegia because of the crossing of the fibers. So this was a little detail about the red nucleus, ventral tegmental tract, its pathway, and to understand why there is contralateral hemiplegia because of these crossings. That is the crossing of the superior cerebellar at the decussation of superior cerebellar, and second ventral tegmental decussation, where the rubrospinal tracts of both sides, they cross each other. So this was the result of the damage to the red nucleus, nucleus rubra, and the ventral tegmental decussation. Next, I told you that small medial part of the substantia nigra is also involved in the lesion. So next, number 4, we are talking the effects of lesion and sign and symptoms. We discussed the ipsilateral oculomotor nerve palsy features. Second, we discussed the crus cerebri medial part and intermediate part affecting the descending tracts, number 2. Number 3, we discussed the damage to the red nucleus and the ventral tegmental tract and its further detail. And number 4, now we are discussing the other effect of lesion, that is the lesion, because the lesion also involves small part of the substantia nigra, so its effects may also be observed, and it results in what? When there is damage to substantia nigra, that is tremors and chorea. It is the result of damage to medial most part of substantia nigra. Substantia nigra. So damage to the descending tracts, we discussed the damage to the oculomotor nerve nucleus and oculomotor nerve fibers. We discussed damage to the red nucleus and the ventral tegmental decussation, and then damage to the medial most part of the substantia nigra in the form of tremors and chorea, which may be present or may not be present and may not be prominent. Now, because this red nucleus lesion and ventral tegmental decussation lesion, this affect coordination between body movements. So how we'll test? To test the coordination of motor activities. To test the coordination of motor activities of an individual in case of lesion. Number one, finger nose test. You will perform finger nose test. You will ask the patient to touch the tip of his nose by his finger. So if it is normal muscle coordination movements, it will be tested perfectly. But if there is a lesion and there is incoordination, so he may not be able to touch the tip of the nose. So this the finger nose test will fail. It will result in, when this there is muscle incoordination, it will result in dysmetria. And number two, the other test. You ask the patient to perform rapid alternating to match the color. So ask the patient to perform rapid alternate movements. Rapid alternate movements. For example, supination, pronation. You ask the patient to pronate and supinate rapidly, alternate movements. For example, to perform supination, pronation of patient's forearm. So when the patient fails to perform these rapid alternate movements, it is known as dysdiacokinesia. Dysdiacokinesia. Number three, what is this test? You will ask patient to walk on a straight line. You will draw a straight line on the floor and you will ask the patient to walk on straight line, placing the feet on the line. But he will, if there is damage, he will not be able to walk on the straight line. He will walk, the patient will walk as if drunk. So these are some of the tests to test the coordination of the patient in case of these lesions. So today we discuss another important syndrome related to the lesion of the midbrain, known as the Benedikt syndrome. And the rest of the syndrome we will discuss in the next class. So thank you very much and keep learning. Thank you.